Welcome back. So, welcome to session 2. In this session, we're going to learn about adding variables, adding incrementing numbers, decreasing numbers, adding list, creating list, shuffling them, creating random numbers, etc. So, let's get started and get back into learning again. So again, if you want to contact me for doing business, creating any app, not just automation or RPA, but anything regarding .NET, website, anything, let me know. I will leave my LinkedIn in the description below. Please go ahead, check it, contact me or message me in LinkedIn, and we can get started with that. So in this session, like I mentioned, we're going to learn about variables. So variables is the screen which you see on the left, the first tab on the left. So we're going to look into how to create variables and how to create list, how to create random numbers, how to increment, decrement, remove variables with all the options which is available within variables. So um, in the next screen, I'm going to show you how to create a variable. So to add a variable, you need to drag set variable onto development area. And when you drag it, you will see a pop-up. This is where you create a variable. So let's say I want to create a message. So strmsg, this is how you name a variable. And the value, I'm going to say hello world. So I want to now, if you look at the right side where there's a flow variables area is, it's going to show you how many variables you have and what the variables are. And you can see the value I set here. To edit it again, double click on the bar here where it says set variables. You can edit it. So if you don't like hello world, you can say hello whatever. Let's say hello Canada, right? So save it. This is a best practice, you need to do it, but I save it whenever I do a change. This is my just instance of years of practice. So to display this again, I'm going to drag the message box. So drag this message box over. I'm going to say this is just a welcome message as title. And to display variable, this is important here. So message to display. Usually what we do, we just write welcome Canada, right? But that's not what we need to do. We need to display the message from variable. So how are you going to do it? Either you can type percentile strmsg percentile, or you can click this little icon where it says in curly braces X and click on that and then select. So before I click select, I want to show you one more thing. So when you expand this, you see all these properties. You can even select this. So I will show you once we go through how to display. So select it and click on save. And if you run it again, so there is the message here, hello Canada, welcome message, right? So if you want to display a property of the message, not just a message, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to do a concat here. And I want to display all the upper cases instead of just a message. So I'm going to show you equals how to display upper cases. So again, I will save. This is just a practice again. Click on run. So now Hello Canada equals Hello Canada in upper cases. So there are a bunch of other properties which you can try by yourself. So just go again here, expand this, and get into trimmed. What are the options available in trimmed? Again, length, how many characters it has, is empty, condition, all that stuff. I'm gonna change this back again. We don't need this anymore, but I'm gonna change this again. And then save, and then get back to variables again. So expand. Now we have seen how to set a variable. Now we're gonna see how to set a random, how to pick up a random value. So to do that, we're gonna drag generate random number. So minimum value, we have to set certain properties here. So minimum value, I'm going to take 0 to 100. We're going to see what this option is. And then random, by default, random number will be allocated to random number variable. But that's not what we need. We need to set a proper naming convention. So random number, and click on save. So to display this, again, we're going to use display message. So I'm going to leave this, I'm going to change this to random variable. So I'm going to select random number and select. Okay, so now if you save again and run it, so it picked up a random number here. It picked up 4. So see if I run again, it's not going to pick up 4. It's going to pick up something else. It picked up 23. So this is picking up between 0 to 100. So if we lower it again, so if we lower it to, let's say, 10 and run it again, so it picked up 0 now. So if we run it one more time, it picked up 3, right? So now look into what this generate multiple numbers is. Right now, this is set to false. It's only generating one value as we have seen. Now I will pick up generate multiple. Now it says, it gives me an option to generate how many number of variables in it. So if I say 10, it's going to display all 0 to 10. Let's see that. And parameter message display value doesn't exist. Okay, so something changed. So this one, you haven't seen this before, but this one is error list. So if there's an error, it's going to display here. So we have one error which says parameter message to display variable rand number doesn't exist. So what happened is when we selected this option, the variable changed. So instead of what we created, this generated by the dialog. So we have to change it again to rand number. We can change it here or just display the message random number. That's gonna fix. So now the error message is gone. So save and run. Now if you look at the numbers it's generated, it generated 10 different numbers. Let me expand this. I don't know if I can, but no, we cannot. Okay, so if you look at here, it generated 10 different numbers, but not in a sequential order. So it generated 6, 7, 3, 8, so on, but not a sequential order. So there's another option we have to look into where allow duplicates. So now if you check this, what's going to happen is it's going to generate 10 numbers between 0 to 10. But now we are allowing duplicates. If you look at the previous one, it didn't generate any duplicates because this one is off, and it always generated a unique number up to 10. So if you save this again and run it, now if you see here, it generated 4 twice or thrice. It generated 0 multiple times and 10 multiple times. So it did generate 10 numbers, but it duplicated multiple numbers. So this is all about generating random numbers. So we look into truncate option. So what truncate does is, let's see, um, so you need to specify a number to truncate. So there are multiple options. We're gonna get into one at a time. So I'm not gonna create a variable, or instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna generate I'm gonna hard code a number, 68557. So I will show you why I took this number. So when you save it, and if you see there's a variable, another variable created, which is truncated value, I'm going to do a truncated value here instead of that. So select, save. So I'm not going to explain this until we see an output. So let's run this and see what the output is, and then I'm going to explain. So when you displayed the truncated value, it displayed only 134, not the decimal numbers after 134. I will show you why. So if you see here in option, get integer part, which is this part, 134. So there are multiple options available. If you need to only get decimal part, so you need to select get decimal part and run. So when you run, if you see here, it only got the decimal part. And there's another option available, rounded number. So I will display this number and I will explain what this rounded number is. So when you run it again, so if you see 134685, but if you see here 1346845, which is rounded up to 685. But why did it take only 3 numbers? Because in the options, if you see here, decimal places 3. That's why it took only 3. If I ask decimal places only 1, it's probably going to display 134.7. So let's see that. So if you see here, it displayed 134.7 because we only asked 1 decimal point after the dot. So next we're gonna see increment and decrement. So now we have a variable, but with this variable is a string type which it took, but I'm gonna change this to integer instead of creating another variable. Integer, let's say random, just random. So this value, let's say 10. So now we need to change this again. Save. And then, so it's taking a lot of time. Okay, so when you run it, so what it's going to display, right? It's just 10. It's nothing new. We have seen this before. So now we're going to increment 10. So to do that, there's a increment variable option available. So drag it in between. So variable you want to increment is random number, and then increment or decrement. So I'm going to say increment by 2. So save it, and then run. So it should display 12 instead of 10 here. So it incremented by 2. And to decrement the same variable, so I'm gonna pull the and then random variable decrement by, let's say, 5, and then save it. So now what it did, 10 plus 2, 12, 12 minus 5, 7. So you know, so this happened in just one variable. We only have int random. So if we create another variable, let's say instead of variable int random, so now we're going to look into how to create a list, and then we're going to see how to add, how to remove all that list operations. So we don't need this, so delete. Okay, so yeah, that's okay. So we're gonna look into create list. To do create list, you're gonna drag create list onto the development area. So by default, it's gonna create a variable LST. So sorry, list. We're gonna name it. So let's say LST names or LST students, right? So save. So just to not get annoyed, I'm change this to display as LST students. You should have imagined by now, when you change this to LST students, it's going to display the list of students and save. So we created a list and displayed a list. So this doesn't have any values. So let's see what's going to happen if you just display an empty list without any values. So it's going to display empty. That's what is expected. But now let's add an item to a list. So to do that, you need to drag add item. So add item, let's say add a name, David, to the list here. And if you want to add another one, add Rahul to list. So on, I will add list. So if we save this and run this, what's going to happen? It's going to display all the student names onto a message box. So David, Rahim. Wow, this is not what we expect. Oh, this, okay. I don't know how this happened, but this is supposed to be Ram. So save this again. And it displayed, right, it displayed what we expected. Right, so if you want to remove any item from the list, you need to call remove item from list. So there are multiple options. We're going to see one by one. So with index, let's say index 2, we have 0, 1, 2, right? So from select, save, and so it removed Rahim from this list. So you have to keep this in mind. Anywhere we say index always start from 0. So David is 0, Ramu is 1, Rahim is 2. That's why when I said remove index 2, it removed Rahim. If I say remove index 0, it's going to remove David. Here, it removed David. Right, so now I'm going to delete, remove. Let's see shuffle list, right? So if you want to shuffle a list, we need to drag shuffle list and then select the list and save. So now it's selected to the same variable. We selected the same list and we're going to display that list. So let's see how it's going to shuffle it. To make sure, I'm going to add a couple more, 3 more students. So this is going to be Ramesh, Justin. So now we have 6 students. Oh, we have repeated ourselves. In the copy paste, Rahim got removed. So now we save it. So the order, if we don't shuffle, should be David, Ramu, Rahim, Ramesh, Zaid, and Justin. So if we run this now, so instead, so David didn't get shuffled, but instead of Ramu, it displayed Ramesh. Rahim didn't get shuffled. Justin, it all moved one step up, and then at the end, it displayed Ramu. So if we run this again, let me take a screenshot of it just to compare its shuffling accordingly. So let me take a screenshot and then display this on the side. So I'm going to run it one more time and then compare the values which we have with this, with the first. So now it was David before, now it's Ramesh, Ramu. So it's picking up randomly. It's never the same if you run it multiple times. So that's my point. So we did shuffling. Now we're going to look into sort. So I'm going to disable this. By the way, you can disable this instead of removing. So I'm going to right click on it. What I did is I'm going to right click on it and then disable action. So I'm going to sort the list. So to sort the list, I'm going to select the list again, what we have, sort by list item properties. Let's not enable this and then click on save and then run it and see how it's going to get sorted by default. So the default sorting is alphabetical order. So if you see D, David came first, and Zayed came at right. So this is a default, but we can change the options by enabling this. And first property to be sorted by. So the name of the item property to sort by the list is, let's say, Ramu, and then save. let's see what it's going to do. Ramu isn't a valid field. So this property only valid when you have like multiple columns in the list. Let's say you have ID, name, so on. We're gonna see that when we have when we go into creating data tables and then sorting it. But for now, ignore this and focus on uh, what the sorting on ascending and descending. So if you select ascending and then run it, it's gonna sort the items, the names in ascending order. So when you run it, display it in ascending order. And when you change this to descending, save, and then run, there's a problem with this sorting. We'll discuss this later, but let's move on to the next topic, um, which is reversing and merging list. So we're also going to look into remove duplicates as well. So if you want to reverse a list, so let's go into reverse list, drag that reverse list, and then select, save this, and then if you run, so instead of it's displaying from David, what it's going to do is it's going to display from Justin. So here, Justin, Zahid, Ramesh, Rahim, so on. Right? So now, if you want to remove a duplicate, I'm going to create a here. Let's see, number of duplicates, and then disable this. Remove duplicate from the list. So if you select the list again, we're going to look at the option again. And then if you run, instead of, so let's disable this first and then run it. Let's see what it's going to display when we have duplicates. So it's going to display Rahim twice and Zahid twice since we have them duplicates. So let's enable this again and then run it one more time. See if you're going to get those duplicates. When we run it, so it removed the duplicates and displayed the rest of the values. So now we're going to see merge list. So instead of having just one big list, so I'm going to create another list. So I create another list, the names, and then assign some values. Let's assign one Zahid to names and Justin into this expression must be a variable. Oh, I have two here, that's why. Save Justin and save, and then David and save. Now I'm gonna remove this because it's getting bigger. I cannot display it. Drag merge list. So first list we're gonna merge students. Second list we're gonna merge names into, let's keep this as output list only, and then first we'll display multiple display boxes. Let's display multiple display boxes where we have students already. We're gonna display names, and then we're gonna display another one with output list. Change the title for other ones as well. So just to make sure we don't get confused. So students list, and then this one is going to be, oops, this one is going to be a names list. This one is, there should be only, so when we run it now, so it should display 3 display messages. So first one is names, David, Zai, Justin. The second one is Ramu, Rahim. There are multiple Rahims and students. And then Zai. So the final list, it's going to combine all the names into one list and then displays it. So now we're going to look into find common list. So what we are trying to do is we're going to compare 2 lists and find if there is anything common. So I see in names and students there is Zahid in common, and if there is anything else it's going to display what is in common. So to do that we're going to look into find common list option. So I don't need a merge, but let's see, we're going to compare names and students. Names and students, and the variable it's gonna get into intersection list. If you want to change, you can change it, but I'm not gonna change it. Save and then delete. I don't need merge anymore, and then I'm gonna display instead of this, display this. Right, so when you save it and run it again, so it's going to go through all the lists, do all the actions, and then display what is in common. Only Zahid is in common. So now we have seen find common list items. We're going to also see subtract list. So it's going to subtract one list. So I'm going to say subtract list names from students, and see this is the variable it's going to produce. So we're going to change that in the display name. See what the output would be. So if we remove this and then difference, select, so save and then run. So now it subtracted the common elements and displayed only the elements which are not common onto the display message. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like, share, and subscribe. It's gonna help me a lot and produce so much content for you guys to learn and grow. And again, if you have any questions, don't forget to comment on the video below. And then if you have any business, if you want to create any app, let me know. I will be there for you to create and deliver any application you need for business. Thanks for watching again, guys. Let's wait for next video, which is going to be our session 3. and see you in session 3. Thanks.